Yes, Muslim. That's why I say Muslim, the Jews. How many women can they marry?
Since the 10th century with one.
And before?
Before it was allowed with more, with 4. The kings, according to the Torah, with 7, and that's it.
And in the 10th century, what happened?
There was something called a takana, which is like an edict in Judaism that was made by Rabbeinu Gershom. He was the teacher of Rashi's teacher. The name Rashi is more familiar to people. That's why I mention it that way. And he understood that by that time, human society was already monogamous. So he decreed that, also due to difficulties and all that, so he decreed that it should be one woman. However, it should be noted that from the 1st or 2nd century onward, monogamy was widespread in Judaism. For example, in 1st century literature from the Second Temple period, monogamy is spoken of as a normal status. And it tells us it's not that they condemn it, but they do see it as wrong, the fact that a person has 2 wives. And for example, Philo talks about this, pseudo-Philo in Katmonio Tayudim, I don't know what it's called in Spanish. They criticize the position of polygamy a lot, so we know that even in very ancient Judaism, monogamy was quite well established. In any case.
And currently they only marry one? There isn't any? A group or a...
They marry more, there are 2. Well, in Yemen, but a civilization that's in Yemen, which is a group of a couple of Jews who remained in Yemen, they still practice polygamy. There are also sects that are anti-Zionist, in fact, for example, called Leftahor, who are an extremely radical group that do quite a few things against the Torah, like getting married, making underage girls get married, things that are really far outside the Jewish covenant, and they do these kinds of things. Of course, they exist. In all Campanagas, there are those extremes far away that are not, but they do exist, of course, just like I imagine. Are you Muslim? You mentioned yes.
Yes, Muslim, yes.
What is the limit?
In Islam, the limit is 4. That's what it is in Islam, yes.
And for slave women?
About slave women, what really happened with you is that maybe it was gradually eradicated quite a while ago. At first, after the love of the Prophet, after the first 100 years, I believe that even at the beginning it was eradicated and prohibited. Thank you.
Are you saying that nowadays slave women are prohibited in Islam?
No, not nowadays, right? It was many years ago. Muchísimos años.
That Islam prohibited marrying wives. ¿Esclavas?
Well, at first, I think it was something normal. At first, it was something normal until it was later prohibited.
Do you think it's right or wrong?
No, in my opinion, it's wrong. It's wrong.
Yes, Muhammad, in Arabic, Muhammad, he did it.
Yes. Yes, but at that time it was fine. At that time it was fine because it was a different era, different ways of thinking, different... Can you judge something in its own time? Isn't it better to judge it by the standards of 1,400 years ago than to judge it now? Maybe something that could be normal before now could be very, very wrong. That's normal. Those are things of course.
Slavery was also something that was universally accepted, but today most of the world condemns it, and that's how I understand it. Does that mean that you, right now, in the year we are in human history, would you say that today being at Muhammad's standard would be wrong?
Well, I don't know what to tell you, but I agree with a big part. I'm at Muhammad's standard. That's perfectly fine. But there are many things that make people think. There are things and customs that make people think they are Muhammad's standard customs, but they're not really like that. Because I don't know how to explain it to you, you know?
But the Quran makes it very clear that you can have slaves, and the Hadith also mentions it a couple of times. Yes.
But the Quran spoke. The Quran, when it came in pieces and it came day by day. And when a piece came, a surah, for example, a surah, when it came at that moment, at that time, in that moment. And the excuse was no, but it wasn't for, you can't practice it for there are things that aren't for all times.
Are you saying the Quran's message isn't eternal?
No, I'm not saying that. There are even messages in the Quran. The Quran is eternal. There is one that is for a certain period and another that is still valid even now and will continue to be valid until a better time comes. No. I don't know if I'm making myself clear. No.
I'm not saying yes, I can translate what you're saying. You're saying there are things from the Quran, there are things from Muhammad that you agree with, there are others that you say that was his standard and you don't agree. That's why you later say that there are.
No, because there are many hadiths. There are many hadiths that are honorable. For example, when a hadith is mentioned, many hadiths, let's mention one, for example. Yes, if we mention the hadith, it is honored by so-and-so, and so-and-so by another, and so-and-so by another, and so-and-so by another. And when you see that one so-and-so existed before the other, there are no guarantees. So it's a hadith, it's not authentic, so we can't talk about an authentic hadith. Because we are living in a world where there are people, there is evil.
Yes, I know all the science behind discovering which is Sahih, which is not. But yes, the hadiths in Spanish that talk about slavery are Sahih hadiths. That is, they are in all opinions true. But what you are telling me is that there are messages from the Quran that were for a certain time, meaning that today they do not apply. Because the message, if I translate for you, I think something meant for a certain time isn't eternal. It was relevant for Muhammad then, but not now. Nowadays, modern morality, as you say, has already surpassed much of the morality that existed in the time of the Quran. Is that correct? Yes?
Yes, there is a hadith, for example, in the past, if someone stole, their hand would be cut off. But right now, you can't practice that.
But I'm talking about the Quran.
It's a hadith. It's from the Quran. Yes, it's from the Quran.
So you're saying there are surahs that was said in the Quran? Yes.
Just like in the 10 Commandments of the Torah, the 10 Commandments are, the messed up Christians, you and us are Abrahamic religions. The only thing is that there are many things in common, among them the 10 Commandments. The only thing is that here the problem arose with Isa. Jesus Christ, the one that at that time, I think everyone was waiting for at that moment. When I say everyone, I include myself. Even if I wasn't there at that time, we were all waiting for a so-called Messiah. And when, for example, Jesus came, that's where the difference is between Christians, us and you. You and we have something in common, which is that we are, or how can I explain it to you? We believe in one God, not a unique God. The Christians say that Jesus is the Son of God. We say he is a prophet. You say he is nothing. So, everyone has their reasons. And this isn't about saying I'm right or you're right. It's simply about what there is, what we are living, what has been lived, what we are living, what is being lived, and what will be lived in the future, right? So, of course, here, and as I told you, and then there are many things that are in the Torah as well that are very radical, not radical. For someone, maybe for you, right? So if I ask him many things, he will tell me, yes, it's just that before it could be done. Now you can't, he would say, and it's not possible. Yes, what is clear here, the most important thing here is that each one of us, both you and the Christians, we are convinced, and we do it convinced that we are right. And then that's the greatness of respect, isn't it? That's the greatness of respect. No, because I can't say yes.
Like you say it when it's written in a book, and it's a theoretical idea, like 99% of things in Judaism, I'm fine with it. But when it starts being put into practice, that's where the problem is for me. The truth is that Islam in modern times, they do put into practice many of those topics we just mentioned, like the enslavement of women in war, massive polygamy, and child marriages. Because they do see Muhammad as a perfect role model they must follow. Even in modern times, unlike your position, are you aware that Muhammad's example has been surpassed in modernity? So these groups today do want to implement systems that I believe are very harmful to what we are experiencing. So when you say it in such a romantic way that everyone can live in peace,
And we all believe in that.
but the reality is that where I live in this part of the world, people don't live like that. And it's also happening, for example, more and more in Europe. They are pushing narratives that don't want to live like that. So I think it's not as rosy as it's being portrayed.
I can't guarantee you. The only thing I can guarantee you, I'll even explain it to you. And you're not even going to agree with me, but you're going to understand me. I assure you that there isn't a single Muslim who wants anything bad for his daughter or his mother or his sister or his grandmother. There isn't a single Muslim like that. Whoever it is, whether they're radical or not or whatever, all of us want. We can't say otherwise. Me, for example, with my daughter, I could never allow my youngest daughter to be taken away by someone while she's still a minor. The way you're explaining it, no one will agree with that. Can I ask a counter question? Yes.
Don't you think there are people who believe it's okay for a minor to marry an adult?
I think this is more about news than what actually happens in practice. And it's either said or allowed. It's nothing more than that. They're the rumors that are talked about so much that they make people believe that it really exists. But in reality, I, as a Muslim, I'm closer to the subject and I don't see this. I feel closer to the subject.
Because I live in a country with more Muslims than where you live here.
Not in Iraq.
In Iraq. In 2025, a law was passed to lower the marriage age to 9 years old. It's a law that was passed. So these are realities that happen. I don't know, maybe where you are, you don't see it in your circle.
I believe Iraq. I have friends there. But wasn't that the question?
My question was if you are aware that there are people, maybe not for you, as we saw, for you, the ethics of Muhammad have already been surpassed. For you, are you aware that it's not?
No, there are no Muslims.
For whom marriages with infants are acceptable.
Right? I tell you, look, it's not just Muhammad's ethics. I will never forget Muhammad's ethics, as you say, as you are telling me. Nor of Ibrahim, of Musa, of Isa, nor of Dawood. I will never forget their ethics. I will never forget. I mean, we, besides, are cousins, brothers, aren't we? Or is that just history?
I think it's an archetypal way of saying Ishaq, Ismail, and certain archetypes. Obviously, we're not blood related. The Arabs of the world are not blood descendants of Ismail. I don't think that's the case, but my question is if you agree that such people exist, because if I see...
This year they passed by.
The law approving child marriage means that there are indeed people who see that as something good. Are you telling me that no Muslim would want something bad for his daughter? The problem is that there are Muslims who believe it's good and others who don't. Or at least that there's nothing wrong with their daughter marrying a 56-year-old man when she's only 9 years old, like what happened in the story. That profético, entre comillas, que tú dices que es tú que no lo olvidas. No. Moments when the woman is viewed negatively.
No, that about 9 years, no. Exactly 9 years. Hasn't it been like that with the Prophet? In those years, women who were 11 or 12 years old were different. That's why things have to be judged in their own time. And I don't know exactly what they based it on. There aren't 100% truths because they're sayings. And they've been saying, taking advantage of the news, like always. They've left it like in the newspaper, right? The first words of the newspaper. You know how they say, right? So of course... And this has always been there, every day, watering it until it grows, and evil always grows and stays there. And of course, we can't defend some things that have been said so many times. What's the name? Sorry, Radwan?
Radwan. Do you agree that in Islam there are people who practice it in a more archaic way than you do?
I don't know anyone who I don't look. I've been to family weddings, you see, and I've never seen a girl. I see a girl nowadays. According to Sitios, a 22-year-old girl is still a girl. I have my daughters. One is 22 and the other is 18, and they are girls. I still see them as girls. Are you?
Are you aware that there are people in places around the world that you might not know to say hello to them? My name is Radwan. But there are people who do take Islamic literature in a way with a much stronger interpretation.
Well, if I see it, I obviously condemn it. If I see, for example, someone practicing something similar, for example, and for a 9-year-old girl to get married, how can a 9-year-old girl, I can't wrap my head around it. You see, I'm not going to applaud that.
You should view the Iraqi parliament as if the entire country approved it.
That's something you have to see. I have to say I've heard about it. It's true. I heard it a year or two ago that they said something like that, but I don't know in what sense, how, or whatever. I even have friends in Iraq, and I ask them, and they say, no, we don't know anything about that. That's just some news that came out. I don't know why, and it just got in like that, but I don't know what roots it has.
Of course, so...
But I've never seen a girl. Honestly,
I don't want to say they're making a fool out of me, but if you ask me if there are Jews who practice polygamy, I say yes. There are sects like Eptower, which I condemn, and I'm aware that in Judaism there are those radical anti-Zionist groups that exist. I'm sorry to hear a Muslim, and I think it's no secret to anyone watching this video, nor to Muslims. The reality of Islam in the 21st century is not just one thing, but I understand that the Muslim has to try to sugarcoat the reality of his religion.
No. Sugarcoat, right? A Muslim has always taught me as a Muslim. It's judging something I don't know, something I haven't seen or heard. I've only heard and I don't see with my own eyes. And I see it with my eyes. And the rest, I can never judge. I will never say that is a bad person, or those are bad people, or those are good people. If I haven't been with them, just because I heard it on television, that's all. Don't worry. My way of being will always be like that. As a good Muslim says, a Muslim has to be very sure about the news. And nowadays, the news is that 99% is against Islam, 99% goes all the way, and it doesn't end. So, I can't judge news from Iraq about children or anything, just like many women have come out talking about Islam. They were treated badly, had bad marriages, did this and that. And they ask me, is it wrong? Is what this woman is saying really, really wrong? But did this really happen to her? Or was she treated, bribed, or told? She has to say this and that, as we all know, fair enough.
Okay, that's fine then.
I mean, there are things, it's not that I don't want to judge. I condemn everything that's being said, and a Muslim condemns it even before. If
you don't see it empirically, for you it doesn't exist.
Until my heart and mind tell me if that's really going to happen, if it's happening. But right now, there are many things I can't understand. A 9-year-old girl marrying an adult, I don't understand it, I don't see it, I don't think it doesn't exist, I don't know, it's hard to believe. Do you get what I mean? It's not wrong.
I have two conclusions. The first is that, well, I understand your position. If it hasn't happened in your immediate surroundings, then for you it doesn't exist, and that's something legitimate. Second, you think it's wrong to marry a minor, something that Islamic sources mention, but for you that's wrong. So are the sources false, or do they need to be reread in some way? But do you agree that this ethic has been surpassed, just like slavery in Islam? For women, let's see.
Or,
for example,
look, I'll explain it to you in a way you'll understand. For example, what's happening in Gaza with what the group Hamas is doing.
For example,
do you believe what everyone says against Israel? But Israel is saying, they're saying that you don't know what's happening here inside with Hamas. It's true. It's the only weapon the Israelis have to defend themselves. So, a person who isn't at the place can't have an opinion. I'm not saying you're right or wrong, but just to have an opinion. What's happening in Gaza with the Israelis, with Hamas and all that, those others who are abroad can't have an opinion because they're not there, they don't live there. A news story, if we start following the news. And I'm not saying you're right. I'm also not saying that Gaza, everything there needs to be studied in its context. I can't get upset. It's not that Israel has done. I don't know what exactly, I don't know if I'm explaining myself. The same thing as here. Make sure of the news.
Yes, I understand your explanation and agree it's legitimate, but without empirical evidence to support it. The problem is...
But the picture. But in Gaza, I'm sure that the Israelis have done terrible things. Israel has gone a little too far, just a little, but there I'm sure, just a little. I think...
When it's Islam doing bad things, you're not sure.
Right? And on top of that, I ask God to make peace. No, but I ask God to make peace. But it could be that I'm wrong, because I don't have 100% certainty, because I'm not there.
Yes, you're wrong.
Is it true? I ask for peace between both of us, I do. Even if we're not cousins or brothers through Isaac and Ishmael, we are through Abraham. Or if not Abraham, then Adam. If not, we still share something in common. We're not brothers. We are brothers. We are there. That's for sure. Well,
I'm glad to hear that there are Muslims, that your human side understands there are things in your literature that are a bit strong. And well, I send you my regards. Radwan.
no, strong things are everywhere. Everyone has something clear, but not everything. Not everyone practices Islam well. And it's always like you said, there are sects and such. Is there anything to do? Normal? You're right about that. You're right about that. Yes, there are some who practice a bit too strictly and they need to think about fixing that. But well, it's truly a pleasure. And well, hopefully there will come a time when peace is made between them.
Of a kid who makes himself heard.
She already speaks the truth, and we don't have to lock ourselves away. Because what happened, I don't know who's right, you, us, what happened in the past, right now. No one is to blame, neither you nor us, no one is to blame. We have to live together, not start saying they did this, they did that. That's in the past. Let it be. God will judge them.
But nowadays, what we Jews have to do is know how to look forward. Inshallah, in Islam, may peace be achieved and more. May there be more Radwanim and fewer.
Inshallah, and you? Inshallah, inshallah, take care. Greetings. Thank you, thank you.
Bye, thank you. Guagua. What an interesting dialogue. It's not the kind of dialogue you come across every day. I don't know how old Radwan was, but with minors, I don't know if you've noticed that it's harder to talk in Islam. Minors tend to have much more passion than older people, and I say this from my experience in the army. Older people are much more focused, they're much calmer, and I'm going to tell you a story about this. When we were in the army, the Arabs would arrive and start throwing stones at the cars and burning tires. So as soldiers, we had to go in and calm all the anger, and this happened every Friday. Does this happen, and how do you calm it down? The only way to put an end to these kinds of riots is when you grab them and push them back to the village. And when because the ones who are there at the protests are young people, kids. And when you push them back, like with gas, because the gas pushes them back, yes, and noise. So when they come in, they arrive at the village, the elders, the grandparents, the parents come down, they grab them by the hair or the ear, hit them with a shoe, scold them, and take them inside the house. And the event is over. Why? Because adults already have their feet on the ground. They already know there's much more to gain than there is to lose, that you have to win. To build an economy together, to live in peace, you simply lose. If the father loses his work permit because of a mischievous child, the whole family ends up losing. So the adult understands that it's better to build bridges, even if they don't like us, because the adult doesn't have to adore Israel. He just understands that it's easier to simply not start making chaos against Israel. So that's why the technique is always to send the young people to the adults, and the adults who are much less radicalized. The current generation is much crazier in the head, so my advice is that with the older ones, you can still have a dialogue,